We are finally back. After a 2-year hiatus, Hunter x Hunter Chapter 401 has been published, and holy crap, I did not expect this wrecking ball of a plot twist to thwack us in the nuts right out of the gate. We have underestimated Beyond Netero. This man has spread a lot of things, plans, chaos, legs, so many legs. And in the space of a single chapter, the entire landscape of the succession contest has changed. But before we get into all of that, we're going to mark this special occasion with Togashi's author comment. Every week, Shonen Jump authors provide a brief comment alongside their manga chapter. Usually it's something like, I ate some meat yesterday, it was pretty good. But in this case, Togashi has the following message. I am deeply grateful that this publication has been made possible thanks to the support and efforts of so many people, which I think is quite lovely. It's been a long road to get here, so let's begin. We actually start this chapter with a lovely color page, quite the rare treat from Togashi, because making these takes a huge toll on him, and I'm very intrigued that he chose to draw Morena of all characters, who he also elected to place on the cover of volume 38, and he drew her with dark hair, which makes my very blonde art library of Morena very sad. However, after this chapter, everyone with dark hair and under the age of 30 is automatically suspicious and to be feared. I'll get into why shortly. But I did just want to linger on this choice to draw Morena, because Togashi is really hyping her up as a force in this arc, much more so than any of the princes King Nasabi, and before this chapter, I also would have said more than Beyond Netero. So I wonder if Togashi is prepping Morena to be the main antagonist of the succession contest. We've obviously got a lot of threads going, and traditional wisdom still says that it's someone like Saradnik, but that dude ain't getting any color spreads or volume covers. So until further notice, I think I'm gonna be investing all of my narrative fortunes in Morena coin. But commencing 2024 Hunter x Hunter, the first character to have a decent chunk of, I guess it's not dialogue, monologue is actually Furikov, who was a soldier in 1st Prince Benjamin's private army. He's the one who survived being shot in the head by 2nd Prince Camilla by using Ken at just the right time, and he is actually a frighteningly competent Nen user. He's one of only 2 characters in Hunter x Hunter to have developed his own system of determining Nen affinities, the other of course being Hisoka, and Furikov's method is much less vibe-based and far more reliable. And something we should keep in the back of our minds going forward is that Furikov also claims to know who the user of Silent Majority is, but he's keeping that information to himself for now because why not? Killing everyone else in the room is very much furthering his cause, and during this chapter, Furikov is speaking to Bobby Minor, another of Prince Benjamin's soldiers, which I point out because he's going to be very important later, as it's rather artistically hinted that everything revealed about Longi in this chapter may also apply to Bobby Minor as well. And to get into that, I am of course referring to the mind-blowing revelation that Longi, who is a bodyguard of 5th Prince Tebepa, is actually the daughter of Beyond Netero, and by extension, the granddaughter of Isaac Netero. If you don't remember who Longi is, that's fine. In fact, it's to be expected. Before this chapter, we didn't really focus on her at all. She was just another one of Kurapika's students at Nen School. So if this revelation feels quite sudden and out of nowhere, that's because it is. Of all of the characters I expected to be important going forward, Longi would have been pretty low on that list. And if in any universe I would have dared to predict that she was the granddaughter of Isaac Netero, mate, I would have been laughed right off Fictional Pirate Hunter YouTube, but here we are. So the idea is that 30 years ago, Beyond Netero infiltrated the Kakin Empire, or at least infiltrated a series of Kakin women. He took what I, as a One Piece fan, would describe as the Big Mom approach to power by breeding yourself an army to enact your desires. And in One Piece, Charlotte Linlin produced an impressive 85 children, and Beyond Netero seems to have been determined to come, quite literally, for that title, because Longi says that she is one child of at least 20. And this comes with the revelation of Longi's curse, which is horrifyingly cool. The art in this chapter is on a different level to usual, and it's like Togashi invited special guest artist Junji Ito to draw these panels, but this appears to be our first glimpse into the Nen ability of Beyond Netero, as this is suspected to be a curse placed on his children. The idea being that Beyond's children were bred to be sacrifices. A curse was placed on them, and then when the curse bearer dies, it also kills a designated target. Now this sounds eerily familiar to the army of have-nots used by 2nd Prince Camilla, who were each assigned to one of the princes and possess a Nen curse that will allow them to kill their target upon committing suicide. It's a bit more complicated than that. Camilla's have-nots have a lot of conditions, and it's an ability that needs to be charged over the course of years to actually work. But again, that sort of sounds like what Beyond has going on here as well. And I do find it quite interesting that we have 2 different incarnations of what is essentially the same kind of Nen ability happening. And that is very unfortunate for the princes because it means that other than Camilla and Beyond's unknown prince, which we will talk about soon, they each now have 2 Nen curse users assigned to them. So things are looking pretty hopeless for most of them, but there is one key difference. Camilla's curse users can be killed. Their ability only activates when they take their own lives. However, Beyond's curse users may activate if they die in any way, so they may need to stay alive. And keeping someone alive in this environment is a much tougher task than killing someone. But let's just stop and think about what this means for a second. Including the suspected prince, there are at least 21 grandchildren of Isaac Netero, and each and every one of them are aboard this ship. It's a Netero family reunion, and such an absurd amount of potential all gathered in one place, working to Beyond's plan, working whether they want to or not. Now, I also flagged Bobby Miner earlier because he had an interesting reaction to Longi emerging from Kurapika's secret discussion room. Bobby Miner sees Longi and he is not the happiest of boys, now hiding his face. And the speculation here is that Bobby Miner is also one of Beyond's cursed children, who understands that Longi has now revealed their secret to Kurapika. And Bobby Miner and Longi may even have some sort of special sibling connection. But what makes this situation even more tricky is the presence of Bill, who I never miss an opportunity to remind people that he is a member of Beyond Netero's expedition team. So theoretically, he's quite loyal to Beyond Netero because Beyond pays his rent. And knowing that Longi's goal is very potentially to cause friction with Beyond's plan puts Bill in a very awkward spot. And I'm also just now starting to comprehend the full scale of what Beyond has done here. Because Bill isn't the only plant on this vessel. Beyond's team are everywhere. Pretty much everyone that Kurapika weeded out of the Hunter exam was snuck in as bodyguards. So we've got that pile of loyalists on top of the at least 20 biological children that Beyond jizzed into the Karkin Empire, means that again, this dude has a small army working to bring his plan to reality. But the most exciting revelation, and I should stress that this is not, strictly speaking, confirmed, but Longi suspects that one of the Karkin princes is also a child of Beyond Netero. And Longi's desire is to discover and then kill that prince, because she has daddy issues. And the theory is that Beyond charmed his way into the bedchambers of one of the 8 legal Karkin queens. The word legal here is very important, as it should be when talking about sex, but it's a different kind of legal here. Because this chapter addresses that a condition to participate in the contest is that a child needs to be of one of Nasabi's legal wives recognized by Karkin law. They don't necessarily need to be the child of Nasabi himself, and the latter is what most people have assumed by default, that everyone was directly sired by Nasabi, because which daring rogue would dare bed one of his queens? I was one of those people, not the daring rogue, the person who assumed that there would be no rogue. I've always just assumed that each child did belong to Nasabi. And after seeing this, I went back to chapter 349 where the initial rules of the contest were first explained, and mate, it is right there. This little butler dude states very clearly that only the children of the legal wives of Nasabi will be eligible to participate. I've read this arc so many times and I pick up new things every time, but this is something I've never lingered on or thought about at all. And it's crazy because it opens up a lot of very chaotic doors. Because there's now very credible speculation that Zhang Lei isn't Nasabi's child, and that he could in fact be the son of Onyo Longbao, who is the boss of the Jiyu family which Zhang Lei directly funds. I'm not going to go into the specifics of that here because we have so much more to talk about, but just know that it's there and I will be covering it in a video soon. But look, I don't know why I'm surprised about any of this. I've been an anime fan for more than 2/3 of my life, and this is just what Japan does. They turn everything into NTR. This was never Beyond Netero's adventures in the Karkin Empire. No, this story was always Beyond Netera's adventures in the Cucking Empire. It's become very Game of Thrones, really. We have political intrigue, assassinations, alliances, and now even sex scandals. But if we are to take Longi's words as fact, then there's a couple of pretty standout candidates to be the child of Beyond. 4th Prince Rydnik is a pretty easy choice due to how gifted he is with nen use, and having some of that sweet Netero blood would almost certainly explain that. Although looking at him, I don't think that Rydnik has the aesthetic Netero genes, and I do think he resembles more of a younger, thinner Nasabi. 1st Prince Benjamin and 2nd Prince Camilla are other solid candidates because they were nen users prior to the contest beginning, but this could also go completely left field and be someone like Mariam, who is a prince I often completely forget exists, because I guess that's the point. That's the ability of his guardian spirit beast to create a pocket dimension of safety for Mariam. I I don't think this is a question that I can answer at the moment. The accusation that one of the princes is the child of Beyond is something that deserves a much closer deep dive into all of the princes. I mean, assuming that his child prince is still alive. Otherwise, this is all kind of pointless. But then again, sometimes Hunter x Hunter is just pointless. But I'm betting that Togashi is left us some clues to find, because we've spent a fair bit of time with each prince now, and I look forward to analyzing them all as soon as I can. But I also never would have predicted that Tebeppa was going to become one of the main princes of interest in this arc. I mean, I guess she is pretty high ranking, 5 was kind of high. But we are now directly tied to Tebeppa's fate because we have a fun Nen contract with a condition sent that Beyond Netero's prince child must be discovered before Tebeppa withdraws from the succession contest, aka before she's killed, which is the most common and potentially only method of withdrawing that we've discovered so far, with the other condition for the end of this Nen contract being that only 2 princes remain, which in an ideal situation would imply only Tebeppa and Wobble, because at that point they need to target each other. But if any party breaks the contract before then they will be subject to a week of enforced Zetsu, which basically means they're gonna die because that leaves you defenseless, and for a whole week you got no chance. What I'm not quite clear on is what happens if Tebeppa dies before they discover who Beyond's child is. Does the condition of a week of Zetsu apply if Kurapika and Longi fail to fulfill that? Because if so, then that means Tebeppa's survival becomes a massive priority. Either way, this makes things complicated, because Tebeppa herself already has an alliance brewing elsewhere. Very early on, she approached 4th Prince Rydnik to form an alliance that would last until they killed Benjamin, Camilla, and Zhang Lei. So tying ourselves so closely to Tebeppa may also mean tying ourselves indirectly to Sir Rydnik, which is the exact not thing we need to be doing with him right now. I mean, Kurapika could see this as a good opportunity to finally gather some intel on his target, but we are so far beyond that stage now. Sir Rydnik's power is escalating too rapidly, and this alliance could only facilitate him growing even further. But then the man himself, Beyond Netero, actually makes an appearance in this chapter, and seeing him again was quite exciting, even though it's the most mundane shot of him we could have possibly gotten, looking like he's just woken up with messy bed hair, blissfully unaffected by all of the death and destruction happening on every tier of the ship around him. But let's add some perspective here. The last time that Beyond Netero was depicted in a Hunter x Hunter chapter was in 2017. It was chapter 359, so this moment is unintentionally the better part of a decade in the making. And the Zodiac he's speaking to is Kanzai, which I point out because Kanzai is not the spy. Don't you go thinking he is. The spy is Sayu, who Kurapika discovered a long time ago, and the plan is to arrest him before arriving at the new continent. And Beyond Netero himself doesn't even know that Sayu is assisting him. That's assumed to be more of a Pariston scheme. And there is a special someone that Beyond Netero wants to see, who I can't even begin to speculate on, because he has at least 21 children aboard this ship and X amount of infiltrated expedition members, where X is the number of members it is that there are. Here's what I can say though. Beyond is being kept in a holding cell on tier 1, so it's probably gonna be a prince or a bodyguard, because there are very limited amounts of people who can enter tier 1, or maybe even a Zodiac. Beyond could be choosing this moment to reveal a prime piece of chaos-inducing information, but for now all I know is that after just one chapter back, I am beyond hooked. I mean, think about it. This entire chapter was primarily a single conversation between 2 to 3 people standing around a table, and I was gripped every step of the way. And we're not done talking about this. Togashi has given us so much to dissect here, and we'll be diving into all of that in the next video. But for now, leave your questions, comments, and speculation in the place where all of that goes under the video.